Hey guys, it's Christy Etheridge with 11 Alive. This is the spot where you saw me a day or two ago. I'm right by, this is the King and Prince on St. Simon's Island, and look at how it has changed. That's the boardwalk I was standing on when I was walking up the steps, and it was already starting to flood because of the king tide. But now, look at this. I was standing there showing you how the water was coming over the corners of the rocks. And at that point, it was still okay and safe for me to be doing that. I had my waders on, but at this point, look, the seas look angry. I'm not going to be getting in that. Especially because water is so powerful. It's so much more powerful than you think it is. That's way deeper than you think it is, I guarantee you. And I could get pushed up on the rocks. I'm not going to do that. So what I can do, though, is walk up on this boardwalk. Might get a little splash, but that's okay with me. And show you these waves because they're going to be about as tall as I am standing up on that. That's way bigger for this coastline. And also, just a frame of reference, these are the docks and piers connected to people's houses. So we are right next to the mainland and the people who live and have houses next to the coast. Ocean, house. Ocean, house. Yeah. And now the ocean is coming up to my feet, so it's going underneath their dock or deck. And Dorian hasn't even really arrived yet. So let's walk up on the boardwalk. Turn you around. Now I'll walk through some of this sea foam. Say hello to photojournalist Stephen Boise. Yeah, there you go. Now you can almost, right there, you can hardly see the rocks. The water comes over. And storm surge leading up to the houses. There it goes underneath the deck right there. Yep, another big wave. I guarantee you if you were standing in that, that would push you over. The ocean is so powerful. And then look at these waves. And don't worry, I'm not going to get too close because photojournalist Stephen Boise has already told me he has no lifeguard skills. So I'm not going to put that to the test. But look, the wind is pushing all of that spray off of the swells. I mean, these swells are probably a good 8 feet. It looks smaller from when you're not in the ocean, but when you're standing in the ocean. But you guys know what I'm talking about when you're at the beach and you're looking at the ocean from your hotel room, you're like, oh, that's not so bad. And then you get out in the ocean, you're like, oh my gosh, these waves are that high. That's kind of like what we're seeing here. I'm gonna turn you back around. This boardwalk might be underwater as we get more storm surge and as Dorian gets closer to the Georgia coast. Just to give you a frame of reference, we are right next to the King and Prince on St. Simon's Island. That is the King and Prince. These are the Johnson Rocks. That's what everybody here calls them because I believe it was President Lyndon Johnson who put them here, or at least ordered them to be put here. Yeah, it's gonna keep crashing up against these rocks as the surf gets rougher, as the wind gets stronger. And even right now, the wind is not as strong as it could be. If we hit tropical storm force winds, then this is gonna get a lot rougher. Yep, and this is why I have waterproof everything. Waterproof phone, rain pants, rain jacket, rain boots, waders. Because this water goes everywhere. Okay, so this is something that I thought is interesting. A lot of these houses are not boarded up on the windows. And I kept asking people why, because if you know there are either hurricane force winds or tropical storm force winds possible coming right at your windows, why wouldn't you do that? Well, here's at least one explanation. One is that a lot of these houses, especially the really nice ones, they might have paid the extra money, ooh, that was a big one, to have Oh, hey Wayne, I'm looking at your comment. That's interesting, I didn't know that. Anyway, so back to the windows. A lot of these people may have sprung the extra money to have the hurricane-proof windows. Those do exist. They're quite expensive, but they can sustain 100-mile-per-hour winds, sometimes even more. I'll have to look up exactly what their threshold is, but people here told me that if you don't see them boarded up, then a lot of the houses, especially right on the water, probably have the hurricane-proof windows intact, which is why you won't see the plywood. Here's another thing. Now this is a different perspective and not exactly the right one. Whoa, did you see that? Yeah, this is what you call an angry sea. So here's one conversation that a neighbor told me they had. They said, hey, your house is facing the ocean. What do you expect to hit your house? Well, you never know what's going to go flying. Debris can go flying everywhere, and it's not going to always go in a linear direction. So what happened to them was their fence on the side of their house was picked up by the wind and circled around the back of their house, caught one of the surf, one of the waves, bounced off the beach, and luckily it hit the rocks, or it could have bounced up onto the back of their house, or which a lot of the windows are, there's glass that could break. So you gotta be thinking, that's a big wave. You gotta be thinking about all of those things. And I think even in the few minutes that we've been here, this surf has gotten bigger and stronger. Also keep in mind that the tide is coming in right now. High tide is at 1:10 p.m. So we're right about at that point. That's partially why this water is coming up so far. Whoa, check that out. But that's partially why this water is coming up so far, even though the brunt of Dorian hasn't reached the Georgia coast yet. Yeah, Rick, you're not kidding. I found the angry side of the island. I posted a video just a few minutes ago walking the pier on St. Simon's right past the village, and it was very calm there. Locals tell me that's the south-facing side of the island. Once you turn to this side, since the winds are coming from, I guess, the northwest, this side is definitely they're definitely getting the brunt of it. It's a totally different scene. This is the kind of weather where my hat could fly off. On the pier, people are still riding their bikes over there and taking pictures on the pier. People are coming out and taking pictures of this too, but for different reasons. It's not the selfies, it's totally focused on the waves and the water. Now, all of these decks and piers and boardwalks, these are only 2 years old. Everybody had to rebuild after Irma came through in 2017. They say the flooding from Irma destroyed everything. I know that comes with living on the coast, but that's got to be exhausting, rebuilding everything year after year, and they've been hit a lot lately. They've had, 3 hurricanes in 3 years? Something like that. One person told me his house was only 3 years old, and he's had to withstand 3 hurricanes so far. Okay, so let's see if I can zoom you in here. A couple of Daredevils over there. 1, 2 surfers trying to pick up some air on the big waves and swells. It is important to note, though, these rocks are not over there. Like where those people are standing, it ends. So where they're surfing, I got worried about that when I saw them here the other day. But we drove down that way to the beach, and the rocks stop. Because I was thinking, well, that's pretty stupid. They're gonna surf right into some boulders, but no, don't worry. The rocks end, and it's just some beach over there, right past that house. again, and look at how far back these swells go. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5 at least. 5 rows of really, really big swells. And then every once in a while it'll crash up and catch me on my ankles. We'll stay here as long as it's safe. If it's still safe this afternoon, I'll try and give you another look. But we definitely have to stay safe too. So if this boardwalk goes underwater, we're gonna back up. It is kind of mesmerizing to watch though. You know, the ocean is just so powerful, and we never see this on the Georgia coast, so I feel like I could, hey, wow. I feel like I could sit here all day and watch this. You know, if it weren't such impending danger, then this is the kind of storm that I'd love to watch from a deck up there. I mean, that's what happens. You get that really big spray when some of the water is coming back out to sea, back over the rocks, and then you've got a swell coming in, and they collide. Woo! Yeah, just like that. Oh, that one soaked me good. That one got all the way in my rain boots. Should have put my waders on. Good thing I have extra socks in the car. That is one thing you learn after covering a couple hurricanes. You bring extra socks and extra plastic bags to cover anything you don't want to get wet. Now it's starting to rain. It's kind of been doing that on and off all day. Sometimes it'll pour down so thick that you can barely see a few feet or yards in front of you, and other times it'll just be this light drizzle like it is now. It's really interesting how the two islands have handled the preparation for this storm totally differently. St. Simon's is kind of in this moment of relief, being thankful and grateful that they are now out of the cone of uncertainty. You know, they're thinking, hey, Dorian may not be as bad as we once thought it was. And that is probably true. But the important thing to note is that even if it's better than you thought it was, that doesn't mean it's going to be a walk in the park. You could still have tropical storm force winds, which is 39 miles per hour or higher. Even more intense storm surge than this. This is high tide, so this is happening naturally. And could get even worse when the eye of the hurricane starts moving closer and more parallel to the Georgia coast. Jekyll Island, which usually you can see from St. Simon's, because it's only about a mile away. That is completely shut down. The semi-linear bridge is closed. The causeway is closed. Sorry, my finger was blocking the view. So nobody could get to Jekyll Island right now. And the people who stayed on Jekyll, they're on their own. They have to go ahead and weather whatever comes on their own. St. Simon's, on the other hand, the causeway is still open. And they don't have any plans right now to shut it down. They want to keep it open as long as possible so emergency responders can still get to and from the island if there is an emergency. But it's also important to note that, It's also important to note that if the winds get up to 40, 45 miles an hour, even emergency responders won't be able to get here, whether the causeway is closed or not. They probably will close it at that point because the winds are too dangerous for even big vehicles, but especially vehicles like ambulances, it's too dangerous for them to go over those bridges. And that's what they want to impress upon people, is that, okay, if the power goes out, if water goes off, then you kind of have to be ready to fend for yourself for a few days, because if it floods or if the wind stays strong, it may not be the flooding that's the problem. It might not even be that your house got hit by a tree. It just may be if you have a natural, regular emergency responders may not be able to get to you. And that's part of the reason that they take this evacuation order so seriously. Man, it's just mesmerizing. You almost can't look away. But it is a good time to be thankful, because you look at this ocean and you see how crazy this looks. And this isn't even anywhere close to hurricane force winds. And then you think about what the Bahamas got. And how unimaginable the damage is there and what people are going through. And you just have to be thankful that that's not headed this way. Do you guys have any questions? I'm going to keep this up a few more minutes. And then we're going to keep looking around the island. I see your question, how in the world can we video this close? Well, right now, it's still safe. There are a bunch of people around. I even saw some, it was either GEMA or Homeland Security, some officials here. Everybody's kind of documenting what they see. And if anything, all I get is a little spray from where I'm standing. If at any point it gets dangerous, then I will back up. And I'm certainly not getting in the water. That would be a bad idea. The location, Bill, is we are right next to the King and Prince on St. Simon's Island. This is the boardwalk that should be leading to beach access. There's usually a lot of sand right here, but not right now. We're entering high tide. So along with feeling the outer bands of Dorian, the water is coming up really, really close because it's just naturally high tide right now. Question, have we had rain yet? Yeah, we have. Collision of a couple swells. Yeah, we have had some rain. It comes and goes. as the bands come through, sometimes it'll be really strong, other times it'll be a little drizzle, and right now it's not raining. What's the temperature like there? It is certainly cooler than it was yesterday and earlier this week. It was very hot yesterday, especially on Jekyll. I didn't have an exact temperature reading, but it felt like it was in the 90s, at least in the upper 80s. But I would venture to say that now it's somewhere in the mid 70s, especially when you start getting wet and you put the breeze into it. It has a feel-like temperature that's much lower. But you've still got that humid coastal air, so it's not cold by any means. Rick, I see your question. Is Jekyll closed because it's run by the state? That may have played into it. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they would also, it really just comes down to safety. They determined that it would not be safe for people to stay there with the way the storm track is going. And that's why they did the mandatory evacuation. Lisa, I see your question. When is it going to hit Savannah? Actually, we may have a crew headed to Savannah tonight because it'll probably come in later this afternoon into the overnight hours into Savannah, probably a few hours after it really hits here, but you may start to see the effects in the next 6 hours. Ellie, I see your question. How close will it get to the Georgia coast? The way it's looking right now is that it's it's running kind of parallel to the coast, so somewhere between 75 to 100 miles off the coast, which is good because it's not going to make landfall, but you can still certainly feel the effects, the storm surge that could cause some flooding, and when you've got tropical storm force winds that could still happen, even when the hurricane is that far off the coast, you can still get trees down. I mean, from the little storm that we had this morning, there's already debris in the roadway from any of the palm fronds that may already be dead and were knocked out of the trees. We saw a couple trees that were down on 17. So it doesn't always take hurricane force winds to bring something down or to cause some damage. Hi, I see you from Trinidad. Thanks for joining us. Stay safe where you are. The water looks really dirty, you're saying? It's probably because when it gets this active, it churns a lot of the sand and the debris from in the ocean up. So when it's calm, I mean, the Georgia coast is never that Gulf water. It's never that crystal clear where you can look down and see your feet. It's just murkier on this side of the coast. But it's probably also exacerbated because when the ocean is this angry, it's churning up a lot of the sand, it's churning up a lot of the seashells, and you're getting that debris and maybe some of that foam, and so it's looking dirtier too. Kim, you're asking if people are still swimming? Yes, they are. Right over there. Can you see them on their surfboards? Okay, Heather, we are on St. Simon's Island, and we are right next to the King and Prince. We're standing on the boardwalk that would typically be giving people beach access to the public beach. But right now there is no beach. There's no sand to stand on. It's all angry ocean surge. Gail, I see your question. Any word on current power outages there? None that I have seen so far, but again, the worst hasn't hit us yet. Hello from Raleigh and from Murray County, Georgia. Okay. Yes, Dennis, there are about 3 surfers over to my right over here. Let's see if we can see one. He was about to catch a wave. Sometimes they disappear behind the swells. They're so big, but yeah, that tiny little dot is a surfer.
Look this way.
Okay. Hey. Inception moment. You guys are going to be on camera. That is Stephen Boise, photojournalist who's here with me, braving the storm. Also photographer extraordinaire. Okay, Perry, I see your question. What's the time frame for moving into South Carolina? We have a forecast track on 11alive.com that should give you a good idea of what time it'll hit the South Carolina coast. I believe it should be like probably sometime Thursday, but the meteorologists definitely have a better idea of the exact timing, and I would direct you to our website. There goes the surfer. See him? Beverly, any idea how much more it will surge? They're saying it could surge a few more feet. That's the danger with storm surge. Oh, okay. Let's see. Are we staying or moving towards Savannah? We are currently staying in Brunswick. And yeah, we'll be here tonight and through tomorrow afternoon at least. And then depending on what the storm does, depending on what the damage is, we'll kind of make our plan from there. Everything has kind of been, we'll take it as it comes. And depending on what happens, that's how we make our plan. Let's see what the next. Yeah, Kevin, I hear you. The funny perception of what huge waves really mean to somebody who lives on the Atlantic coast. Yeah, this is huge for Georgia. Maybe not huge for anybody out on the California coast. But for us, we never get any action on the ocean here, so this is big. Lisa, is it going to be really bad in Savannah? That's a hard and complicated question. It's not going to be as bad as it could have been, but there could still be storm surge, there could still be flooding, and winds can bring down power poles and power lines, and so it's hard to say, because a lot of the times it's all our best guess until it really gets here. So that's why the best idea is for everybody to be ready, no matter what the prediction is, because things can change and certain areas can get hit harder than others. Look at this island. We were standing on the pier and it was fine, and then we come over to this boardwalk, maybe not even a mile away, and it's very different. So you got to be ready if you know it's coming anywhere close to your coast or your home. Alright guys, thank you so much for being here and for watching this. We'll stay here and continue to give you updates as long as it is safe. Again, this is St. Simon's Island. Don't worry, I'm standing right next to the boardwalk, holding on. I'm far from the edge. We'll continue to give you the updates as long as it's safe. I know this is a mesmerizing sight. Look at all those waves. We're gonna keep driving around the island, checking some other places out. Stay here on my Facebook page for updates. Oh, I'm gonna show you this. As the water's crashing, it's starting to breach this concrete wall. And look, things are floating. We've got some driftwood and something else floating in the water. That looks like it might be either plywood or metal. I'm not 100% sure from this far away, but that's the kind of thing with really high winds. That's the kind of stuff that can go flying. That's the stuff we have to be really careful of too. Keep our eye out for that and make sure that we have a place to shelter in between our reports. because I'm not trying to get hit in the head. All right, one more look at the ocean before we go. Starting to rain a little harder now. I'm gonna head back to the car, change my socks, get a little bit more waterproof. But we'll keep updating you as long as we can. Waiting for the water to recede. Here we go. And I'll be your eyes and your ears from the coast, bringing you the latest for as long as it's safe, as long as I can. All right, guys, I'll update you again soon.